diving deep into the idea of peace, especially from a biblical perspective.
Okay.
And, our listeners brought an episode of Temple's Table to analyze with us.
Okay.
And it's got some talking points and then a whole temple summary section.
Yeah.
So are you ready to kind of dig into this and see what we can find?
Absolutely. Let's see what nuggets of wisdom we can pull out of this.
Okay, so the first talking point is perfect peace.
Okay.
And they start with Isaiah 26.3.
Right.
It says, God will keep those in perfect peace whose minds are steadfast because they trust in him.
Mm-hmm.
Such a beautiful promise.
It is.
But what does it really mean to have a steadfast mind?
Right.
Especially when, life feels anything but peaceful.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
When I think about a steadfast mind, I picture like a tree that's deeply rooted in the ground.
Right.
No matter how strong the winds blow.
Yeah.
No matter how fierce the storms rage, that tree remains standing because its roots hold it firm.
Yeah.
So in the same way, a steadfast mind is grounded in faith, in the unwavering belief that God is in control, even when our circumstances feel chaotic.
That's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
The unshakable tree.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think about all the times that I've felt anxious or afraid.
Sure.
What are some ways that we can cultivate
Right.
that kind of steadfastness in our own lives?
Well, one way is to consistently remind ourselves of God's promises and his faithfulness.
Yeah.
Spending time in prayer and meditating on scripture can really help to strengthen our trust in him.
Right.
And building those deep roots day by day.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next talking point is peace I leave with you.
Okay.
From John 14:27.
Right.
This is where Christ promises his followers peace.
Mm-hmm.
But he specifically says it's not the peace the world gives.
Right.
I've always found that distinction intriguing. What do you think is the difference between those two types of peace?
That's a crucial difference.
Yeah.
The world often equates peace with the absence of conflict or the achievement of certain external conditions, like a good job, financial security, perfect relationships.
Yes, you're right.
But that kind of peace is fleeting because circumstances are always changing.
Those things can disappear in an instant.
Oh, exactly. But the peace that Christ offers is internal.
Oh.
It's a deep sense of well-being and security that comes from knowing that we are loved and accepted by God.
Yeah.
Regardless of our circumstances.
Okay.
It's a peace that transcends our understanding.
Right.
And remains constant, even in the midst of trials.
So it's less about what's happening around us and more about what's happening within us.
Exactly.
In our hearts and minds.
Precisely. It's about finding our center.
Yeah.
Our grounding in our relationship with God.
Okay, that leads perfectly into the next talking point, prayer and petition, from Philippians 4:6-7.
Okay.
It encourages us to bring our anxieties to God in prayer with thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then there's that incredible verse about the peace of God,
Right.
which transcends all understanding,
Yeah.
guarding our hearts and minds.
Yeah.
I get chills every time I read that.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
The idea that something beyond our comprehension,
Yeah.
beyond our ability to grasp intellectually, can actually protect our inner peace.
Right.
It's a reminder that faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting in the one who does.
I love that.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off of needing to figure everything out on our own.
Right.
But how does that transcendent peace actually work in practice? I mean, if we can't even understand it, how can we access it?
That's where prayer comes in.
Okay.
It's not about reciting memorized words
Right.
or presenting a perfectly worded petition. It's about opening our hearts to God, honestly sharing our fears and anxieties, and then surrendering them to him.
Right.
It's in that act of letting go, of trusting that he hears us and cares, that we begin to experience that peace which surpasses our understanding.
Okay. So it's about letting go and trusting.
Yeah.
I can see how that would lead to a sense of peace, even if we don't fully grasp the how or the why.
Sure.
It's like jumping into a pool without knowing how to swim,
Yeah.
but trusting that the water will hold you.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It requires a leap of faith, but the reward is a peace that runs deeper than anything the world can offer.
So far, we've been talking all about that internal peace. But the next talking point shifts the focus a bit.
Okay.
It's peace with God.
Right.
From Romans 5:1.
Right.
This one states that belief in Jesus leads to peace with God. What's the significance of this peace?
Okay.
Especially in relation to everything else we've been talking about.
This is foundational.
Yeah.
It addresses the root of our restlessness and unease. You see, until we are reconciled to God, until we have that peace with him, we will always be searching for something to fill that void within us.
It's like trying to build a house on a shaky foundation.
Right.
It doesn't matter how beautiful the structure is, it's not going to be truly stable.
Exactly. But when we come to know Christ,
Yeah.
we are reconciled to God. And that foundation becomes solid.
Right.
It's from that place of peace with God that we can truly experience the internal peace we've been talking about,
Right.
as well as peace in our relationships with others.
It's all connected, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like a ripple effect.
And that ripple effect continues in the next talking point.
Okay.
Establish peace.
From Isaiah 26.12.
From Isaiah 26.22. This one says that God actively establishes peace for us.
So peace isn't something that we just passively receive. It's something that God actively works to create in our lives.
Yeah.
He's not just sitting back and waiting for us to figure it out on our own. He's actively involved in the process of bringing peace into our lives.
I completely agree. It's like he's the master gardener, carefully tending the soil of our hearts,
Okay.
planting seeds of peace and nurturing them to fruition.
Mm.
And this idea of God's active involvement in our peace
Right.
is further emphasized in the next talking point.
You're talking about led by peace.
Yes, led by peace,
Yeah.
from Isaiah 55.1:12.
From Isaiah 55.12.
Right.
I love the imagery in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Mountains and hills bursting into song trees, clapping their hands.
It's so beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah.
It paints such a vivid picture of the joy and abundance that come with true peace.
Right.
But how can we be led by peace?
Oh, yeah.
What does that even look like?
That's a beautiful question.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the idea of trusting our intuition,
Okay.
that inner voice that guides us towards what is right and good.
Mm-hmm.
When we are aligned with God's will for our lives,
Okay.
when we are walking in step with the Spirit, there's a sense of peace that accompanies our decisions and actions.
Right.
It's like a compass pointing us in the right direction.
So it's not just about feeling peaceful. It's about letting peace guide our choices.
Exactly.
It's about asking ourselves, does this decision, this action, align with the peace I have in Christ?
Exactly. And sometimes that might mean saying no to things that seem good on the surface but don't resonate with that deep inner peace.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together. It's not just about feeling calm and relaxed.
Right.
It's about a deeper alignment with God, a way of life.
Yeah.
And it looks like the last talking point before we move into the temple summary
Okay.
reinforces this active pursuit of peace.
All right.
It's peace salt from Psalms 34.14,
Okay.
which I'm guessing is a reference to seek peace.
You're probably right. It seems to be emphasizing the active role we play
Right.
in pursuing peace.
It's not just going to magically fall into our laps.
Exactly.
We have to actively seek it out, cultivate it, and protect it.
Absolutely. It's like anything else we value in life.
Yeah.
Relationships, health, success.
Right.
We have to be intentional about pursuing them.
So we've gone through all the talking points,
Okay.
which have given us a lot to think about already.
Right.
But now it's time to shift gears and explore the temple summary section.
All right.
Are you ready to dive deeper?
Absolutely. I'm curious to see what other insights they offer. So it seems like the temple summary starts by contrasting how the world views peace compared to the Christian perspective.
All right.
They point out that the world often focuses on inner peace through self-help.
Right.
You know, like meditation or soul searching.
It's that whole find yourself idea.
Right.
But they're saying it misses the mark because it ignores the true source of peace, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Like, if you're trying to find peace without acknowledging the source of true peace, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom.
Exactly. They're highlighting a fundamental difference in worldview.
Right.
From a Christian perspective, lasting peace comes from a relationship with God, not self-discovery.
So it's not about ignoring self-reflection or personal growth,
Right.
but about understanding that those things find their truest fulfillment within the context of a relationship with God. It's like those self-help techniques can be tools, but they're only truly effective when used in conjunction with the power source, which is Christ.
That's a great way to put it. It's not about rejecting those tools,
Right.
but about recognizing their limitations and understanding that they can't provide the ultimate solution.
Okay, and then they go on to cite Isaiah 9.6, calling Christ the Prince of Peace.
It's such a powerful image.
It really is.
It speaks to the transformative power of Christ's presence in our lives.
Yeah.
He's not just a bringer of peace. He embodies peace itself.
Right.
He is the source, the embodiment of the peace we're seeking.
And if we want to experience that peace, we need to connect to the source. It's like plugging into a power outlet.
Right.
You can have all the appliances in the world.
Yeah.
But without that connection to the power source, they're useless.
Exactly. And they continue to emphasize this connection by citing Romans 15.33, which calls God the God of peace.
Right.
So we have Christ as the Prince of Peace and God as the God of peace.
It really drives home the source of true peace.
Right. It's like they're saying, look, if you want peace, this is where you find it.
No need to keep searching the addresses right here.
Right. And then they make a brief but interesting connection in Galatians 6.16.
Okay.
Linking peace with mercy.
I'm wondering if it's suggesting that extending mercy and forgiveness to others is actually a pathway to experiencing more peace ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like holding on to anger and resentment creates this inner turmoil.
Sure.
But when we choose to forgive, it releases that tension and allows peace to flow back in.
That's a beautiful insight. And I think it ties in with something we discussed earlier.
Okay.
The idea of peace being a fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
Remember Galatians 5.22?
Yes.
We talked about it in relation to Philippians 4.6-7, where peace guards our hearts and minds.
Right. So it's not just something we receive. It's something that grows within us as we cultivate our relationship with God.
Right.
And allow the Holy Spirit to work in our lives.
Exactly.
It's like a garden. We have to tend to it, nurture it, and pull out the weeds that choke the growth of those fruits.
That's a great analogy, and I think it speaks to the importance of being intentional about cultivating the fruits of the Spirit.
Right.
It's not just about passively waiting for them to appear. It's about actively seeking them out, nurturing them, and allowing them to blossom in our lives.
This next part really stood out to me.
Okay.
They quote Isaiah 46.9-11, emphasizing the importance of knowing God for true peace.
Okay.
This verse talks about God's uniqueness and power, asserting that He alone can make things happen.
It's a powerful reminder that our ultimate security and peace rests not in our own abilities or understanding, but in the sovereign power of God. It's like realizing that we're not the ones holding the world together.
Yeah.
We can relax and breathe because the one who is in control has got this.
It's that surrender we were talking about earlier, that letting go of the need to control everything.
Exactly.
And then they bring in Romans 8.28, the famous verse about all things working together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose.
Yes. Talk about a peace-inducing promise.
Really?
This is one of the most comforting verses in the Bible.
It is.
Especially when we're facing difficult times.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even in the midst of trials, God is at work, weaving together all the seemingly disparate threads of our lives for our ultimate good.
Right.
It's like looking at the back of a tapestry and seeing a jumbled mess of threads, but knowing that on the other side, a beautiful design is emerging.
And trusting the weaver, even when we can't see the full picture yet.
Exactly. That trust is what allows us to walk through those difficult seasons with a sense of peace.
Yeah.
Knowing that God is working all things together for our good.
And speaking of a bigger picture, they briefly touch on Philippians 3.20, which reminds us that our citizenship is in heaven.
Right.
It's like they're saying, don't get too caught up in the drama down here. You've got a bigger destiny.
It shifts our perspective from the temporal to the eternal.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that this world is not our ultimate home.
Right.
That our true allegiance lies with a kingdom that is not of this world.
It's like we're on a journey, and this earthly life is just a temporary stop along the way.
Exactly. And that knowledge can free us from the anxieties and pressures of earthly life, allowing us to experience a deeper level of peace, because we know that no matter what happens here, our ultimate destination is secure.
And to wrap up the temple summary, they quote Romans 12.18, emphasizing the importance of living in peace with everyone. This brings it back to the practical, everyday implications of peace.
It's a reminder that true peace is not just an internal state. It's something we're called to live out in our relationships with others.
Right.
It's about seeking reconciliation, extending forgiveness, and pursuing harmony even when it's difficult.
Because ultimately, the peace we cultivate within ourselves should overflow into our interactions with the world around us.
That's right. It's like a fragrance that can't be contained.
Yeah.
The more we cultivate peace within, the more it naturally spills out into our relationships and interactions.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground in this temple summary.
Yeah, we have.
It's amazing how these verses, when woven together, create such a rich tapestry of understanding about peace.
It really is. It's like each verse adds a different thread, a different color to the overall picture.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the temple summary, what would you say is the most significant takeaway for our listener who's on their own journey to find peace?
I think the biggest takeaway is that finding true peace isn't about achieving some perfect state of calm or eliminating all conflict from your life.
Right.
It's about, finding your center in God, trusting in his promises, and allowing his peace to guide your thoughts, decisions, and actions.
It's not a passive thing.
No.
It requires effort and intentionality on our part. We have to cultivate those habits that foster peace. Prayer, Bible, study, gratitude, forgiveness, and weed out those that create inner turmoil.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a lifelong process.
It is, but it's a process worth embracing.
Right.
And as we journey deeper into that peace, it begins to ripple outward, impacting not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
Right. It's not just about personal peace. It's about seeking peace with God.
Yes.
Extending peace to others. And even working towards a more peaceful world.
It's about becoming peacemakers.
Right.
Reflecting the very nature of Christ, the Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
And as we embody peace, we become instruments of his peace in the world.
What do you think about this? If peace is a fruit of the Spirit, then perhaps cultivating the other fruits, love, joy, forbearance, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, can actually enhance our experience of peace.
That's a beautiful insight.
Yeah.
It's like each fruit nourishes and strengthens the others, creating a harmonious ecosystem within us.
Right.
When love flourishes, peace takes root more easily.
Okay.
When we're filled with joy, it's harder to be shaken by the storms of life.
Wow.
And when we practice kindness and goodness, we naturally create a more peaceful environment for ourselves and those around us.
So it's all interconnected. This deep dive has been such a rich exploration of this multifaceted nature of peace.
It really has.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of what it means to not only seek peace, but to become a peacemaker.
I'm so glad to hear that. And as you continue on this journey, remember that peace isn't just a destination. It's a way of life.
Right.
Way of being in the world.
Yeah.
It's a choice we make each day, each moment, to align ourselves with the source of all peace, Jesus Christ.
And as we make those choices, we become more like him.
Yeah.
Reflecting his peace to a world that desperately needs it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the concept of peace. We hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that it has inspired you to go deeper in your own pursuit of peace.
Absolutely.
And to be a beacon of peace in your own corner of the world.